Hola, cage fighting connoisseurs. This is KidNativeBloodyElbow.com, joined once again by Zane Simon. We're here to look back at UFC Rio, UFC Fight Night, Maia versus LaFlare, UFC Fight Night 62?
Uh, sure.
61?
Rio, UFC Fight Night Rio.
Yeah, UFC Fight Night Rio is the name. Not terrible, not great. General thoughts on the card, Zane Simon.
It was great right up until the last fight. That was kind of a unfortunately stereotypical latter day Maya performance of being able to get your opponent down over and over and over again and then offer up nothing in the way of fight finishing offense.
He almost got the arm triangle in 2 rounds.
Yeah, and the second time it just kind of looked like he just decided that it wasn't worth the risk of actually trying to complete it.
And that's the sort of thing a veteran does when he's shot his wad trying to get a submission at all costs, and then paid for it in the later rounds. So I understand why he did it. It doesn't make for the most entertaining, television, however.
Yeah. Otherwise, the fight card was pretty great. I mean, the only boring fight I remember on the card otherwise was the Trinaldo bout.
Yeah, and any fight with Akbar Ariel is suck a wind uphill to be good. But yeah, the main card was all finishes, 4 submissions. And with the 2 submissions on the undercard, is that the most submissions we've seen in a long, long time?
Definitely the most we've seen in a long time. Submission rates have been falling for years in general, so it's rare we get more than like two or three a card.
Yeah, and so it was a treat, and honestly, the biggest blood on the card was the crappy reffing, and
Yeah.
that's controversy. You had 2 fights. First up, lightweight Christos Giagas choked George De Oliveira way longer than anybody should be choked. I mean, the guy was out, 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 and the ref let it go. And then just 2 fights later, the same ref calls a fight over when Leandro Silva had Drew Dober in a pretty weak attempt to guillotine in half guard that Dober was escaping just as the ref stopped the fight.
Yeah, it seemed like one of those cases where he like screwed up really badly in one direction, so the next time he was out there, he was like, "Oh, I better make sure that doesn't happen again. I'll jump in the moment I think the guy's in any trouble at all." It really just suggests a complete lack of understanding of grappling, like what it was going on in there.
Yeah, either that or he's just really prone to panicking.
Yeah.
Just bad reffing, and Dana White certainly complaining. I don't know how much swing Dana White has with the Brazilian Athletic Commission, such that it is. I mean, the UFC basically set up the Brazilian Athletic Commission, but they seem to be operating somewhat as an independent entity. So, I don't know how much influence Dana White has on getting the guy fired, but he's been calling for the dude's head. And the referee's name, what is the dude's name?
His name is Eduardo Herdy.
Eduardo Herdy. Yes, remember that name because he is a terrible referee. If you're in the cage, this is not the man you want looking out for your health and safety or your paycheck, because that just cost Drew Dober. Dana White says he's going to get the bonus, but you never know. But let's get back to the main event. Ryan LaFlare, very disappointing performance for the previously undefeated welterweight.
Yeah, it was terrible. I don't know what his game plan was. I don't know what his preparation was. I don't know if it's just.
He
I mean,
clearly worked a lot on defending himself on the ground.
yeah, but I mean, like, it seems like one of those things where LaFleur. I mean, he's a guy who's been up and coming for a while. He's been around for long enough that he should be a pretty fully developed fighter. Like, we're at the point where we should basically be seeing Ryan LaFleur at his best or getting to his best, and he's with a good camp that prepares him well. And it just looked like, every time Maia wanted to take him down, he got him down. So unfortunately, it may set a pretty bleak ceiling for Ryan LaFleur.
Maybe. I mean, the guy's 31 years old. He's been fighting for 7 years. Previously undefeated. He had 4 straight wins in the UFC, all by decision, however. So he's not an overwhelming offensive force. Maybe he can turn it around. I don't know. I mean, Demian Maia is so strong at the things he's good at that there's a lot of people would be taken down and dominated on the ground by Demian Maia. He didn't get submitted. He didn't get humiliated. I mean, it hasn't been that long ago that Demian Maia was turning people's faces into blood faucets. So, you know, but again, it is very much back to the drawing board. And I was never sold on LaFleur really as a potential title challenger or anything like that. So I'm not enormously surprised. But now let's talk about the co-main event. Eric Silva, Josh Koscheck, first round guillotine, 4 minutes 21 seconds. Is this the end of Josh Koscheck?
I don't know. I mean, unfortunately, MMA is like it's kind of second chance city. If it's not the second or third time somebody's been around the block, it'll be the fourth or fifth. And Koscheck could certainly, he could get a new contract with Zuffa if they decide he's valuable enough to and wants to be lowballed. Um,
He's
or
coming off
he,
five straight losses.
yeah, or he could go to Bellator and get a contract with them and fight.
He could be fighting Kimbo Slice and Ken Shamrock in a three-man tag team match in
Yeah,
weeks.
and so I don't know if he's. I'd love to have him be done. I mean, I don't know. Financially, he seems well off. It seems like the only thing he's doing right now is just putting his health at risk. Um, but yeah, I mean, this was just like it was the inevitable happening. It was the sort of fight where you knew going in exactly what was going to happen, and it happened.
Yeah, for a minute or two, I felt like Koscheck came out more aggressive than he did against Jake Ellenberger, and he landed one pretty sharp standing elbow, and that was pretty much it. And then once Silva started catching him with the lefts, it was over quickly.
Yeah, he started pawing at his eye again.
Yes,
So whatever is going on there, that is just never going to go away.
George St. Pierre broke his face. I mean,
I,
that's
I know, but it just seems absurd that that would be like 6 years later and he would still be pawing at that eye every time he gets hit there.
yeah. I mean, clearly some serious damage was done, and that kind of trauma leaves marks for the rest of your life. And when you start eating
Yeah.
hard punches there again, it is what it is. I really have no more desire to see Josh Koscheck. But how about Eric Silva? Can't complain about that performance.
Nah, I mean, he's the fighter he's gonna be, and that's still a really fun fighter to watch. When he's got the right matchups, when he's got guys like Koscheck in front of him, he's gonna win. And he's usually gonna make it look pretty good.
Yep, and this is his first time to string together two straight wins in the UFC. That's hard to believe for a kid that came in with such promise. He's gotten six fight of the night performances, and yet this is the first time he's had two wins in a row. So maybe he can put together a title run. I,
To
I
be
don't know.
slightly fair to him, one of those was a really dumb DQ against Carlo Prater.
Yes, Mario Yamasaki disqualified him for one of the few punches to the back of the head DQs you've ever seen, and it happened quickly.
Yeah. That was just like an instant knockout, got on his back, hit him in the back of the head once or
Yeah, and
twice,
and I
maybe.
think
And
that really had serious negative long-term consequences for Silva because he was coming in off of a quick 40-second knockout. That would have been his second. That would have been a 30-second knockout. He would have been roaring out of that with enormous momentum, and instead he got a loss and a setback. And I really feel like he's never entirely recovered from that and has a bit of a reputation as a head case as a result. But let's run through the rest of the main card. It opened up with Godofredo Pepe submitting Andre Fili with a really lovely flying triangle choke.
yeah, that was an amazing win for Pepe. I mean, it's one of those things that like I never see. I think the big thing that we're seeing out of him that's kind of surprising is we're seeing like he's obviously this incredibly wild fighter who's just willing to throw whatever at his opponents to see if he can make it work and get the win. And that's not changing. That's not like his process is getting better, but his ability to execute those wild attacks and to use that fearless to a really high advantage does seem to be improving. It seems like the chances he's taking and the attacks he's throwing out there are more technical and a little better calculated than they used to be.
Absolutely, and it looked great. First round finish, 3 minutes, and then Gilbert Burns submitted Alex Oliveira. Thoughts on that one?
Great fight. Great fight. I mean, Burns showed why he's one of the best young prospects in the game still, and Oliveira showed that he's a great future action fighter for the UFC. Really solid, wrestler, striker. Um, and Burns is, his striking isn't there to compete at the highest level yet, but he's still an incredibly dangerous fighter developing.
Absolutely. I was impressed with Oliveira coming in as a fairly short notice substitute for Josh Thompson. How do you think Burns would have done against Thompson, who was scheduled to fight him?
I don't know. Thompson doesn't have Oliveira's venom on the feet. He doesn't have that aggression, that
Definitely
level
not.
power striking that really turned Burns' head a lot and really made him second guess his game plan. So whether Thompson could take advantage of that, I don't know. Like Thompson probably would have been more eager to try to mix it up on the ground and see what he could do there. And at that point, I don't know how well he would have done there. That's a very much a stylistic thing where it's a question of, Oliveira was kind of like the right guy at the right time to give Burns trouble in that he has some decent wrestling and he's got incredibly powerful aggressive striking.
Good points. I look forward to seeing Thompson versus Burns still, though, if that works out with the timing of Thompson's recovery and everything else. I think that he's the right kind of test for Gilbert Burns, who's undefeated, young fighter. How old is he? He is 28 years old. So throwing him in against a lion, an Asian lion like Josh Thompson, is a great test, I think, to see where he is against somebody who's got in-cage experience against the very top of the division. So a good test for that. How about Amanda Nunes destroying Shayna Baszler in a minute 56? Were you surprised at all by that
No,
performance?
not even a little. That's exactly what I expected. And I wish it said more about Amanda Nunez. I wish I could be more excited about Nunez because of it. She looked great, but beating Shayna Baszler is not meaningful.
Yeah, and it's Shayna Baszler to me epitomizes a past epic in women's MMA, and there's even the question of whether that Shayna Baszler today is even comparable to the Shayna Baszler of 3 or 4 years ago when she was at her peak. And so, it's just the new guard eating the old guard. And Nunez, I don't know, she's got a ways to go as a contender. I mean, she didn't get crushed by Kat Zingano. I mean, she could put up a great fight against Kat Zingano. In the end, she did get snuffed, and so I think she needs at least what 2, 3 more wins to become a title contender.
However much they can, whoever they can fast track right now. I mean, I'm at the stage with Ronda Rousey, where I'm just saying meat for the beast. Like as long as they're feeding her, I'm fine, and I don't really care how they feed her or who they get there and what they throw in. I just want to watch. Nunez at the point in her career where she's not really on the development track anymore. We should be seeing a fully formed fighter. Whether that's a great 3 round or 5 round fighter or not, I don't know. But she's certainly fun through round one, and if that's probably all she's going to be in there with Rousey for. So that
Quite
wouldn't be
likely.
something I wouldn't want to watch.
Yeah, quite likely. And how about lightweights? Leonardo Santos submitted Tony Martin in 2 rounds, 2 minutes 29 seconds.
Martin still has some big gas tank problems, and this was just a bad matchup for Martin, honestly. Santos is a guy who it sounds like he's turned his camp around. He's finally figured out how to eat right. He's talked about how tough kind of messed up all his training, and that's why he's had so much trouble cutting weight lately. And beyond that, he's a really technical grappler. And Martin's whole thing is he wants to get in, grind on you, take you down, and grapple you and hit a power submission. And that wasn't likely against Santos. At which point, it was all about how good is Martin's gas tank, and that's still a problem, obviously.
Yeah, and that faded fast. So let's run through the prelim cards. On the Fight Pass card, 2 fights to open it up. Freddie Serrano, the Colombian wrestler, pretty much pretty slow route to a quick destruction of Bentley Seiler. I mean, the first 2 rounds, if there was any action, I can't remember it in the first 2 rounds, but in the third round, kind of out of the blue, a beautiful uppercut for a straight up KO, not a technical knockout, a flat out knockout.
Yeah, I don't know where Serrano's training right now. It says Octagon MMA Colombia, but I have to assume he's spending at least some time in a U.S. gym. But he's one of those guys that even though he's really late in the game, he's had so little training that he's got the athletic talent that it'd just be really nice to see him in a big camp, get him as far as they can, as fast as they can. Probably never contend, but if he could, even get to
Flyweights
like
a shallow division. I mean, they
it
need
is.
contenders, and
It,
and the problem is that I don't see them expanding into Colombia anytime soon. So they're not fast tracking. And the Latin America Toughie was on. The Mexican fighters all got to train with the Greg Jackson team. I don't remember where the other Latin American fighters got to train with. So that was a little bit of a sidetrack. But I think Freddie Serrano is certainly with probably the most talented of the tough Latin American fighters. in my
Yeah, he's
opinion.
got the most athletic high end. He's the most natural, pure athlete, and the best combat base, being a Pan American bronze medalist wrestler. So he's
Yeah.
he's he's the most likely to actually turn into something in the UFC.
Yeah, although he's 35, so the clock is ticking. And then we got Christos Giagos in the fight we mentioned before, where he choked out George Oliveira and choked him out and choked him out and choked him out before the ref stopped it. Thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the ref, like we discussed, that ref's just not good.
Yeah, the ref sucks. But what
It's
about Giagos?
Jagos looks good. He's a physical talent. He's got some skill. He's got he's like a B minus C plus at everything, but he's got a lot of athletic ability. So really like A level athlete. All of his skills are developing, and Oliveira, George Blade, is just not like he can strike and that's it. And so this was a good showcase fight for Giagos. Get him on track. Make him look like a prospect again. See what he can do next.
Yeah, interesting fight. And so then we had four fights on the Fox Sports 2 card. First up, lightweights Leonardo Marfra defeated Kane Carrizosa with its decision. One of the slower fights on the card. Not a terrible fight, but not by no means remarkable. Then we had Leandro Silva defeating Drew Dober in a bullshit technical submission call. The kid did not tap. He was not choked out. The worst part to me was Leandro Silva claiming he felt the guy knock out. That was the bigots on the martial arts forums are going to be howling typical Brazilian fighter over that one.
Yeah, fighters do that all the time though. Fighters will always telling the ref, "Oh, he's out, he's out, he's out," and like
It's true.
sometimes they're
It's
right.
true.
And the big thing to me is just that from that position, there's like maybe max a 5% chance that Dober would go out there. Like maybe 5 times out of 100, you see that choke go in, somebody's going to tap, and usually it'd be like a panic tap from somebody regionally who doesn't know what to do. And the ref should know that. He should be the one to know it's a guillotine from half guard on the bottom. There's almost no way he's getting this sub. I shouldn't be quick to stop it.
Yeah, that was. I think you're right. That was a panicked reaction to having let the choke on De Oliveira go on way too long before that. But now let's talk about the fight that really broke my heart tonight. Kevin Souza demolished Katsunori Kikuno in a minute 31. One punch. Kikuno ducked into a straight right hand and was instantly out. The second straight up knockout of the fight. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I told you so. I don't know if it was you specifically, but I told somebody
Yeah, you told the guys
certainly.
on the Dallas and Connor. Kakuno's one of those guys that's fun as heck to watch, but at the UFC level, you just have to protect your face. You've got to keep your hands up, and
Well,
that
and the
doesn't
thing
seem to
is,
be a lesson he wants to learn.
apparently Kikuno asked for Kevin Souza specifically to fight him. And that to me is like he asked for the lowest name value hardest opponent he could get in the UFC.
Yeah,
You
that's
know, it's
insanely
like
masochistic.
if you're going to ask for somebody who boxes really well at range and is going to be your specific poison, like ask for Conor McGregor or Dustin Poirier or somebody that's like got enough name value to
To
at
get you on
least
the
like
main
be a
card.
yeah. But asking for Edmilson Souza is just like I want to see this guy beat my ass and nobody will know who he is.
Yeah, yeah, completely wrong-headed from a fight management perspective. And so, back to the drawing board for Kakuno. Expect they'll keep him around. He's picked up a couple wins in the UFC, but the kid really needs to work on a few things, and it's really frustrating because he's got a really fun style, and I really don't have any idea what to say there, but. I think we've covered the card. Any final thoughts? I mean, who should Demian Maia fight next, and is he a welterweight contender?
I don't think Damian Maia is a welterweight contender, not after the way he looked in the fifth round. I think this is more of a like I say, I think this is more of a like Ryan LaFlare problem than a Damian Maia problem. Damian Maia
Yeah, I mean,
still
LaFleur was there. This was his shot to get over on an aging name fighter with a limited
yep,
skill set.
yeah. And he couldn't at all. And it's that's to me is more the story here. I mean, Maya is still a tough test. He's still a tough guy. He'll still compete with guys in the top 15, but I don't think he could win enough fights to contend for a title.
No. No, and you look at the guys ahead of him on the list. I mean, he's not going to beat Hector Lombard. Maybe he could beat Matt Brown, but I could see Matt Brown jacking him up. Hard to see him beating Carlos Condit. Definitely not going to beat Tyrone Woodley. We already fought Rory McDonald. Never going to beat Johnny Hendricks. Very slim chance of beating Robbie Lawler. So, it's hard to say where he goes from here. But for Ryan LaFlare, I mean, he had scraped into the bottom of the top 15. Back to the drawing board. We'll see what he's made of. Maybe the kid can put something together. I do not know.
Yeah, he's got another. He has more time to improve and to come back and make another run at it, but not way more. This isn't like he's 4 or 5 years in and just getting his first shot at the big time. This is, he's in the full swing of his prime, and he was expected to get into the top 10 and make a name for himself right here, and it didn't happen.
Who do you think would be a good rebound opponent for him?
Um, a good rebound opponent for LaFlare. I don't know. That's You always put me on the spot with this, and I never have anything ready. Um, the
Gotta think ahead, kid. Think ahead.
I know, I
You know
know.
I got one.
Maybe
You know I
Ellenberger
got one.
actually, although Ellenberger just won, so I,
Yeah.
I would like to see somebody around that kind of thing. Maybe like
What about Gunnar
Mike
Nelson?
Pierce if he ever comes back.
Who?
Mike Pierce.
Ah, Pierce. What happened to Pierce anyway? He's been gone a long
I think
time.
he may have gotten injured, or he may be doing the Josh Koscheck thing where he's taking a whole bunch of time on the sidelines. Um,
What about Gunnar Nelson?
yeah, and maybe that would be the right fight to make just to see which of these two sort of failed prospects can
Stalled.
actually,
It's not
or
failed.
stalled prospects. Not failed, but they've stalled at a point when they should have achieved,
Yeah.
and see which of them could actually turn it around quickly. That might be worth doing. I kind of hesitated to do it just because I forgot how long Gunnar Nelson's been in the game. He's been fighting for a lot longer than people think he has, so that's probably the right fight to make right now.
All right, and that is our show. I mean, there's no point in belaboring this. It was a fun card. I think it exceeded expectations. Quite entertaining. The main event got a little bit tedious, but honestly, for three and a half rounds of that, I was enjoying it. Damian Maia's
Hmm.
timing on the takedowns is remarkable, and his ground game's remarkable. Even though I would like to have seen him go for broke a little bit more, but I take the chances. It was LaFlair's fight to lose. He didn't press forward. Henry Hoost was in his corner telling him press forward. He's getting you down when you're standing in front of him, and he just didn't listen. He couldn't absorb that lesson, and he picks up his first loss in his MMA career. There you go. So remember to give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Subscribe to MMANation.com on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at TheZaneSimon, at KidNate. Read us on BloodyElbow.com, and we'll be back for whatever the next UFC is. It's like they've got a string of so-so events. UFC Fight Night Mendez versus Lamas. And is that 2 weeks from now or 1 week from now? That
Yeah,
is April
2 weeks
4th.
from now.
So in Fairfax, Virginia, the exciting low regulation environment of Fairfax, Virginia. So won't be a lot of drug test failures on that card, I guarantee it. All right, Zane, thanks very much, and adios, MMA aficionados. We'll catch you next time.